compost, full of beneficial microbes and nutrients. We just got to make some more. Today, I'm going to be going over with you 6 very easy but important steps in putting together a hot compost pile. Let's get started. Step 1 of 6 is collecting and storing your browns and greens. So as you can tell, over here to my right and behind me, I have leaves. So leaves is a very good source of carbon, and it's something that we can collect in the fall time. We can store it on our property if you have room for that. We can put it in garbage bags. Leaves is something that does not break down quite readily, so they store very well. Next is your greens, your nitrogen source. So over to my left, we have a large pile of coffee grounds. We went to our local shop every few days or so, collect them, spread them out so they can get air and sun to them so they don't get moldy. So that's a good nitrogen source for the compost pile. Also, we used scraps from my kitchen. We put those in the freezer to preserve them because they can draw fruit flies and gnats if just left out in the kitchen or under the sink. And also any kind of green vegetable scraps from the garden. All together, that makes a good nitrogen source. Now, currently we don't have any animals, but if you have a manure source that you trust and feel confident with, that is also a good source of nitrogen as well. Step 2 of 6, set aside some space for your compost pile or bin. Making sure it's close to a watering source. It doesn't matter if it's in the shade or sun, it's going to work either way. And also, it would be good if it's in a place where it's out of the way and somewhere that you can have access to it throughout the year. Along with that, choosing a bin that you're happy with, that's going to work with you on wherever you live at. There are so many to choose from tumblers to cinder blocks. You can make them out of that, wood, wire. We're going to be using some wire to make ours, and I'll show you that now. In making my compost bin, I'm only going to be using these 2 items. I have done this in the past and it has worked very well in keeping everything inside the bin. So over to my left here, I just got this from a big box store. This is called garden fencing, and the opening mesh here is a 2x3. And just using this by itself, I have found that my compost will fall through here too easy. So this is where the chicken wire comes in at. This is just chicken wire. It's very flexible. And so I just overlay this on this garden fencing and it works very well. So the dimensions, if you want to have a 3x3x3, you need to cut off at least 11 feet of your garden fencing and 11 feet of your chicken wire, and I'll show you how mine looks. Okay, so we cut off 11 feet of the garden fencing and 11 feet of the chicken wire. Now the chicken wire is a little bit taller than the garden fencing, but that's fine. Actually, it's going to be in our favor. So over here on the ends, as you can see, we cut it where we have these prongs sticking out here, because this is going to come in good in making sure that the ring comes together. We have something to hook and latch it to. And the chicken wire, if you can come up close here, you can see maybe that we just took it and just wrapped it around here on the ends, 1 by 1 like this, just to secure it. So with that, we're just going to flap this down all the way over, and we're going to bring it together in a circle and bring it through here, both of the ends, and bring it together and secure it. Okay, I want to talk to you about the chicken wire. The chicken wire is facing the inside. It goes all the way down to the bottom. We have the overlap just hanging on the outside, but the chicken wire will work better if it's on the inside, because when we put the compost in, the materials that is, it's going to bring it up flush to the garden fencing. So it's real simple. You just bring each prong into one of these opening mesh here, and you just bend them over. Step 3 of 6 is preparing our ingredients for the compost pile. So the smaller that our ingredients are, the faster it's going to break down. Myself, I want my compost as soon as I can get it. So therefore, I'm going to be chopping it up as much as I can with my lawnmower. I'm going to be rolling over these leaves several times to break them down some, and also these green leaves from the garden. I'm going to be running the lawnmower over these as well. And so with that, it's going to help my compost pile break down a little bit faster. So step 4 and 6 is putting your compost pile together. We have been chopping up the leaves, chopping up the greens with the push mower. It's been doing a pretty good job. And so we're just layering it like a lasagna. Put down the carbon source first. Each layer gets a nice drench of water. At the beginning, you want to put more water than what you would later. I'm going to bring you up close to show you what it looks like. All right, so it's looking good. We have it not even half done yet. It's time consuming at the beginning, but so worth it when the compost is finished. So in here, we have chopped up leaves. We have chopped up greens from the garden. We got some garden scraps. And our other ingredient is I'm going on the property, getting a little bit of dirt and just putting a little thin layer of dirt ever so often just to try to jumpstart the bacteria in it. My ratio is approximately 3 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. And I wouldn't get too worried about that at the beginning because, you know, that is something we can adjust as time goes on. As we have it full and when we begin to start turning the pile, add a little bit more moisture on there, we'll be able to see at that point as the days and the weeks go by if it needs a little bit more carbon source or if it needs a little bit more nitrogen. So once again, don't worry about that too much. Just do the best you can and it can be corrected as we go along here. Our compost bin now is filled to the top. Now we have chosen to keep our compost pile covered basically for 2 reasons. One, because all the hot heat we have here in Florida, this will help the pile to maintain its moisture level better. Plus, when it rains, our pile will not become waterlogged. Okay, so we're back at the compost pile. Today we're going to be turning this pile. The temperature is around 118 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I need it to be hotter, because it's got to get up to at least 131 degrees to start killing off weed seeds and pathogens. So turning the pile will help as we go along here. Okay, so there's different ways that we can turn this pile, different methods. We're going to show you one of many methods, but basically we're trying to get the inside, the core, which is the hottest, get it on the outside and get the outside on the end. Let's get started. I want to go over with you one way of many in turning your hot compost pile. Now these are your bins and your compost pile is in some type of a bin of some sort and you're getting ready to turn it. You have another bin here to put it in. The purpose in turning it this way is we would like to help all the pile to eventually end up in the middle part, the core, which is the hottest part of the pile. Because in order to kill weed seeds and pathogens, the temperature has to reach at least 131 degrees or higher for a certain length of time. So basically there are 5 steps. Step 1 of 5 is take the top part off and put it out of the way, maybe on the ground or in a wheelbarrow close by. Step 2 of 5 is to take your middle core out, which is the hottest, and layer it around the perimeter of your bin over here, leaving the middle part open. Step number 3 of 5 is to take the rest of this section and put it in the middle opening here. Step number 4 of 5 is take what you put in the wheelbarrow or on the ground and spread it out evenly on top of that. Step 5 of 5 is to take this bottom part and lay it here on top. Now I have turned a compost pile this way and it is not hard at all. It's a very good way to make sure that everything eventually ends up in the middle to reach those hot temperatures. It will only take about 4 or 5 times turning the pile to make sure that everything ends up in the middle core. Okay, so the first thing we did was unlatch the wire bin, relatched it back and just set it over to the side. We have this tarp down here because the first thing we're going to do is take off part of this top section and put it on the tarp. Okay, so I got part of the top part off down on the ground on the tarp. The next step is to work on this middle core, which is going to be the hottest of this pile. We want to take this middle core and just layer it on the perimeter inside of this bin here, leaving a hole in the middle. Okay, so as we're going along here, I notice that this pile has a little bit of a sour smell to it. As I check the moisture level, no water drips from my hands. So it's not because it's got too much moisture on it. So something's going on with this pile because it didn't heat up yet and it's been several days. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to put some more nitrogen in here, coffee grounds, because the texture is fine and coffee grounds breaks down quite easily. So I'm just going to be sprinkling some coffee grounds as we go layer by layer in here. And then also I'm just going to be sprinkling some leaves that we have ground up with the lawnmower, just in case this might help as well. Okay, so we got the middle, the core, put around the perimeter of the bin. The next step is to come along here on the sides, because we left a hole here in the middle. We take this, what's on the side here, and begin to put it in the middle here. So once again, in troubleshooting this problem of this pile not heating up, and also we have a little bit of a sour odor, normally if the pile is not heating up, you will want to apply more nitrogen source. And so we're doing the coffee grounds for the nitrogen source. If you had some food scraps, you can do that as well. And then if the compost pile has an odor, which mine has a little bit of a sour odor, then you will want to put a little bit more carbon in here. Once again, this pile is not too wet, so we're just going to have to get out here and turn it more often as well, because as we turn it, we're introducing more oxygen in this pile, and that also should help with the sour odor. Now that we got about 2/3 of this off the compost pile, it's time to take what's on the tarp and just put it in this bin, just smooth it out evenly all over from side to side. Okay, so now we've got that off the ground, it's time to put the rest of this on top. As we've been going along here, we've been layering a little bit of ground up leaves and a little bit of coffee grounds. No water this time because the moisture is good. Okay, so now this bin is filled back up. It is my plans to come back out here in 2 days and turn it again, and I'll see you then. A couple of days have passed and we have came out here and turned this pile. It has reached up to 140, 142 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are so pleased. So definitely adding the extra carbon and adding a little bit more nitrogen definitely worked well. Step 6 of 6, harvesting your finished compost. Once your compost pile is no longer heating up and there's no visible signs of food scraps, and pretty much it looks well decomposed all the way through, then it's the time for you to harvest your finished compost to reap the rewards of all your labor, and you'll get many benefits of using it in your vegetable garden. Once my compost pile comes to a finished stage, I will be bringing you back in a future video to show you what mine looks like. I will see you in the next video.